Ladies and gentlemen, let's game into the video. Let us further discuss Linux gaming. So it's actually great news for gamers who utilize Linux, and that is Crytek are set to unveil the CryEngine 3 for Linux at GDC 14. So it's going to be completely native support of Linux, and of course that means it's going to be using OpenGL. And that obviously is great news because titles such as Crysis 3, which use variants of the CryEngine, that means we're going to be able to get ports or versions of those on Linux. Although, of course, this does lead to a few really weird questions. Currently, there is no client for Origin on Linux. But the weird thing is, of course, that Crysis 3 is distributed solely via Origin. So what titles exactly is this going to be for? Is it going to be future titles? Is it going to be more focused on non-gaming type of applications? Because Crysis 3 engine does power serious military combat type of simulations, aviation simulators, that type of thing. So it's possible in that respect they might utilize the open source operating systems. We do know that Linux is starting to push forward in the gaming terms. It's not quite there in terms of the average gamer adapting it, and I would still recommend, despite the fact that the SteamOS is pretty cool, I would still recommend most people go with a dual boot at best with it. Simply because obviously it's still in beta, and for most gamers, if they just want to put the title in and play it, Windows is still the better option in terms of compatibility. That's not to say that there aren't ways around it. Obviously you can do Wine or so on, but for a lot of gamers, particularly those who just want to jump in and play the damn thing, it's not quite really what they want to do. And so we're still at the point where the no fuss, no effort approach really is still the Windows-based operating system with Origin and Steam and so on, making it very easy to simply set up your games. Regardless, I have personally said that I think that there is definitely something in the air for PC gaming. You can smell it, and this might not impact us now. So, despite what I said about, Crysis 3, it's probable that we won't be getting Crysis 3 on Linux. But what it does mean is that in the future, it's going to be a lot easier for ports to appear on Linux. And of course, for gamers, or rather games developers who are utilizing the CryEngine for like third-party titles, because obviously, just like Unreal Engine, which, of course, Epic licensed out to various different companies. For example, they licensed it, out to BioShock, for BioShock Infinite, as well as the other series in there, and so on. Unreal Engine's CryEngine's very similar in that regard. Now, that's not to say that people are quite ready to abandon ship yet. There are numerous issues with Windows gaming. I mean, obviously, performance is one of the primary concerns, and other people cite other things such as cost. In other words, if you're buying hardware, then you have to worry about buying the new operating system and so on. And a lot of people do prefer the compatibility, the modability, if you will, with Linux. In other words, you can change your own desktop, you can configure whatever the heck you want. If you really wanted to, you could go pretty much minimalistic and you could go with just command line only if you really wish to. It's not really how many people are going to want to edit documents and so on, but still, just using it as an example. But Windows is also going to be getting a new lease on life, particularly when you consider the DirectX 12, at least according to advertisements that Microsoft themselves are making, it's going to be a fairly low-level API. Obviously, I'm not disbelieving them, but I'm going to be very curious to see just how low-level it is when you consider just how generic they have to make it. Having said that, OpenGL is also advertising exactly the same thing. It's also becoming a lot more low-level, and they certainly have the extensions to do it. The only problem with all of this in terms of low-level optimizations is it means potentially, depending on how all of this goes and how they all, how all of the companies speak with one another, it could mean that there's going to be a lot of extra work that games developers have to do, which could maybe negatively impact PC gaming in that respect to get the best performance. Like, in other words, it could maybe slightly increase development time because they have to worry about, like, okay, here's the NVIDIA pathway, here's the, AMD, and then I have to worry about per chipset. But obviously, that's going a little bit far ahead of ourselves, and I have a feeling that if this is going to be implemented by AMD and NVIDIA and OpenGL and DirectX and all of these different companies are going to gel together. But going back to point, Linux is definitely starting to push forward too. Obviously, the SteamOS is, well, greatly responsible for that. Obviously, Valve are championing the Linux foundation, shall we say. They're trying to really build a bedrock in with the gaming community, so I guess we're just going to have to see. Regardless, it's a pretty interesting little bit of news, but hopefully you've enjoyed the video. A little bit of food for thought, if nothing else. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye for now.